organizations. I'm delighted to introduce you to Robin Poston, and she is the Dean of the Moody School of Graduate and Advanced Studies and Associate Provost for Graduate Education with SMU. Welcome, Robin.
Thank you so much. And y'all, it is a pleasure to see so many great women of DFW and beyond. And honestly, y'all, it's inspiring. So good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'm Robin Poston, Dean of the Moody School of Graduate and Advanced Studies at SMU. I'm delighted to join you tonight for this end-of-course panel for the SMU Women in Leadership Influence and Impact program. That's part of the Moody School. So to our students, congratulations. Oh my gosh, you reached this milestone. That's huge, right? You've done a lot of work. So over the past 6 weeks, you've engaged deeply with ideas around leadership, influence, and impact, not as abstract concepts, but as lived practices. Tonight's conversation brings those lessons to life in the most meaningful ways through the stories, experiences, and wisdom of women who are leading across industries and communities. To our panelists, thank you so much. We are truly grateful that you have chosen to share your time, your insights, and your journey with me and all our students. Leadership is often discussed in terms of outcomes and achievements, but what students benefit from most are the candid moments, the lessons learned through challenge, uncertainty, and growth. Your willingness to speak honestly about those experiences is a gift to us, and it reflects the very spirit of leadership this program seeks to cultivate. At the Moody School, we believe leadership is not defined by the title alone. It is defined by the influence, the integrity, and by the ability to create meaningful change in your organization, whether in an organization or a community or a single conversation even. This program exists because we know that when women are equipped, supported, and connected, the impact we can make extends far beyond individual success. This evening's designed to be a conversation, one that is thoughtful, engaging, and personal. I encourage our students to listen closely, ask boldly, and take from this panel not just advice, but perspective. And to our panelists, thank you again for modeling what it looks like to lead with purpose and authenticity. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to our moderator to begin the discussion. I hope you all enjoy what promises to be a rich and inspiring conversation. I know I look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Robin. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you our panelists for this evening. We have Bev Behrens, and she is a Senior Manager of Learning and Development at Home. We have with us as well Claudia Coleman, Vice President of Design Operations at Thomson Reuters. We have Kaaren Shalom, Vice President and Chief Privacy Officer with Sirius. And we have regrets potentially from our fourth panelist, Erin Pryor. There is a chance she'll join us a little late, so if she does, we will be delighted and welcome her. But she is tied up with a work matter. So I'm going to ask each of our panelists just to say a little bit more about themselves so the students can learn. So Bev, may I start with you, please?
Sure. Hi, you guys. I'm Bev Behrens. I actually have a former coworker on here. Hi, Marissa. It's lovely always to see somebody, a friendly face that you know. I have been at home since the week before Christmas, so I am very new there, lead talent development there. Prior to that, I spent 3.5 years leading talent development at Remington Hospitality, where my friend Marissa works. And prior to that, I spent a little over almost 21 years at Southwest Airlines at our corporate headquarters here. So I'll always say our. I mean, I grew up there. I feel like I started as a very young person and left as a not so young person. So I just want to say hi to everybody. I'm grateful to be here. I love talking about this. We have one of our ERGs at home is women in leadership. So this is just very, very much in line with something that's important to me, important to everybody on here, and grateful to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Bev. It's always interesting to speak with a leader who is fresh into an organization and the culture is still something that they're learning. And so we look forward to
Yes.
hearing your perspective from your full career as well as what
Mhm.
it feels like as a new leader in a new place. So thanks for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Claudia.
Hello, everyone. Gotta get my volume up. Claudia Coleman. I am with Thomson Reuters. We're a software development company that provides solutions for attorneys and tax professionals. We do a whole lot of other things also, but that's the Cliff Notes version. Some of you all may know us by Reuters News. That's the other part of our business line. As stated, I am responsible for business operations for our UX team under our product organization. Prior to being with Thomson Reuters for 5 years, I was with AT&T for about 21 years. So that whole growing up thing that you have, Bev, totally been there, done that. This was a really good experience for me to jump out on my own and try to see how I could operate in a new environment without all of that credibility and brand building and all that stuff you build up that I did not have at Thomson Reuters. So I was really excited to see what I was capable of doing. Really excited to be here. When you all see me doing this, I'm so used to doing jazz hands through Toastmasters on Zoom. It is, I saw myself do it earlier. I'm just letting you know, this is hand clapping when someone does something. It is customary for our Toastmasters, and I literally do that every Tuesday at noon, and I found myself doing it earlier, so I just had to laugh at myself and tell on myself. Thank you.
I just learned something new about Claudia. I didn't know that you were a Toastmaster. I'm not even sure if that's what we call people in that community, but how's that been for you?
It's great. It's my one selfish development thing that I do, but I really believe, and I've seen this for years in my career, if you can articulate your story, then you are well ahead of many. I know some really, really smart people that have not been in a position to learn how to storytell and articulate messaging, and they don't get the positions that they are aspiring to. I really recommend Toastmasters. It's just a little sharpening that I try to get every week.
Mm, that's great. Thanks, Claudia. Kaaren.
Hi, everyone. So wonderful to see you all and get a chance to be here. I am very excited to see this wonderful group of women and be able to talk to and my peers as well, and be able to learn from them as well. This is great. So I am the Vice President and Chief Privacy Officer for Sirius XM Radio, which is actually also includes Pandora and an ad tech company that we have that's based in Romania and Ireland, and a few other businesses that we've acquired along the way as well. And my job is largely to be responsible for the personal data that we collect from our customers, some to do with our employees and with our business clients, and the governance of that data in regards to regulatory actions, contractual obligations, and things like that. So it's a very volatile field right now. It's especially with AI entering the mix. It's a really exciting job, and I've always really enjoyed being in a job that's kind of on the cutting edge of technology and the cutting edge of issues that arise, both social and regulatory. Before I was with Sirius, well, actually, I'll sort of go back. I'm an SMU alum, undergrad, and then I went to got a master's degree from USC in anthropology, which was an extension of my undergrad degree. And while I was in LA, I ended up, like so many people, in the entertainment industry, and I spent 10 years with Paramount in their marketing department, where I ended up as the executive director of what would now be known as digital marketing. And then I left that field and came back to Texas and enrolled in law school at SMU. So I'm a double alum, and had a midlife career change from marketing and the business side to becoming an attorney. For anyone who wants to go to law school with 3 children under the age of 5, we'll talk. Call me. So, but I went to work for Sirius XM. I spent a couple of years in private practice and then went to work for Sirius XM and never looked back. Being in-house is wonderful, and transitioning into the field of privacy, which is something that my interest started when I was working in the digital space very, very early on in the internet and could see what we could see about people. And I found that to be absolutely fascinating. And I love that I was able to transition into this job. From the point of view of new, it's not a new job for me. I've been with Sirius for 12 years and in this position for 6. But I have a new boss. It's my second new boss in a year and a half. And there have been other leadership changes. And I think that presents a different kind of challenge when you are established in your position, but you have to now, manage and communicate and sort of upwards, and also, shift your leadership style to meet the leadership style that they're bringing in as well.
Yeah, that's a really valuable experience to learn from that I'm sure many of us can relate to. So thanks for sharing that, Kaaren. Okay, so we're ready to jump into our questions. So the way this is going to work is first I want to thank all of you who submitted questions. There were some amazing questions, many wonderful questions to choose from. What we try to do is get a balance of topics and just give as many people a chance to come to the stage, so to speak, as possible. So with that in mind, what I will do is ask an individual who submitted a question that was selected to come off mute and ask their question, and then I'll direct that question to one of our panelists to start, and then we'll just engage in the conversation from there. So I'd first like to invite Kendra Haslett to come off mute, and she has a question that has to do with leading authentically.
Sorry about that. I couldn't find the mute. Okay, can you hear me? Okay. I got this echo. Trying to figure that part out. Wendy, I can't hear
you. I muted myself in case I was the problem. I was just saying you might have a couple of different sound sources going. So Kendra, why don't we give you a moment to experiment with that? Or you're off mute now. You want to give it another try?
Okay. I'm a log out and then come back in.
Okay, so how am I? Am I okay? Yeah, okay. All right, so while Kendra's getting sorted, we'll ask Melanie Hanna to come forward, who has a question about the panelists' leadership journey.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here today with us. One of my questions was about sharing a defining moment in your leadership journey that has shaped the way that you lead today.
Thanks, Melanie. So, Kaaren, I'm going to ask you to lead us off on that one.
Sure, I'm happy to do that. And I actually like to share 2 moments because I think they come at it from 2 different directions. One is about something that impacted me in terms of how I began to show up as a leader among my peers. And the other one is one much later in my career about how I learned something that was very impacting in my leadership style over my direct reports. So the first one was that I was catapulted in my position at Paramount. I was catapulted into a position that seemed at the time to be maybe a little out of my reach. But I ended up in it, and I wasn't going to let go. But I would be in these very large meetings with people who had years and years of experience that I didn't have behind me. I was very knowledgeable about a very, very new and emerging technology known today as the internet. And the people around me had years of experience in the movie marketing industry overall. And I would be in these large meetings, and I felt that I didn't trust my voice. I didn't trust that I had relevant things to say. And so I sat in these meetings and began to, sort of catalog mentally at first, and then later I would go back to my office and write them down, catalog my thoughts from the meetings, and realized over, maybe a month or two of these meetings, that I actually did know what I was talking about. And I actually knew what was, the observations that I was making, and that the thoughts that I was having, the things that I had to contribute, were actually very valuable. And over a short time, but it took a little time, I began to really trust myself and trust my knowledge, and the fact that I was absolutely an expert in my field, that I knew what I was talking about my field. And I began to raise my hand a little more and lean in a little more. And in a very short period of time, the rest of the room began to listen to what I had to say, because it was new, and I knew what I was talking about, and I made it relevant to the conversation. And I quickly began to sit in a much more equal and relative position. And I felt from that time on, once I felt that business authority, people began to come to me and talk to me, ask me questions about, how their field was impacted by what I knew in my field, and it was a real shift. And the takeaway for me from that is, it may take you a little time of sitting and watching the landscape, but trust yourself, trust your knowledge, trust that you know who you are, and that you and do make it relevant. Making it relevant makes all the difference, right? The second one was actually fairly recently in my career, where my team expanded, and I began to work with a leadership coach, because I really felt that I needed to understand more about how to work with a larger number of direct reports. And one of the things, two takeaways here: lifelong learning. Never think you can't learn more, because you always can. You always can improve, and there's always something that will make you better and more efficient and more successful in the goals that you're trying to accomplish. I mean, you all are already there. You're doing exactly that. But the takeaway that I got from this coach that changed things very much was to ask my direct reports, what did they want from me? What could I do to help them become more successful in their day-to-day jobs? And I began to do that in the very next meeting. And several of them said, no one's ever asked me that before. None of my bosses have ever asked me that. And so that opened the door to communication, and I learned a lot about what they would like to see from me. And I can't accommodate everything that they want, but it really increased the communication and increased my efficacy as a leader, to be able to understand more about what they wanted to take away.
Thanks. So there are two powerful stories, Kaaren. Thank you. And Bev or Claudia, feel free just to jump in.
True words of wisdom. I like the humility in consulting the team and asking them. It's someone, no, it's not just someone, there's a program called Soccer Resilience, and they offer this to some of the young kids that play club soccer. And there's some astronomical quote about how many negative thoughts that we have every single day. I'm not going to remember the number. It was well into the 5 digits. But the point is, a lot of times we talk ourselves out of that position with the noise that is in our head. So I really like what you did there, Kaaren, when you went and you gave yourself confirmation. You tested it out, gave yourself confirmation, and that built your confidence. And there are different ways to do that, but I really did like that self-reflection, because you only get to confidence if you know yourself and you can build up that confidence in yourself. That was great.
Okay.
Well, and I'll just pipe in here too, really quickly. I'll make it very quick. But I thought about these questions before this evening, and one of the things that popped into my head that's overly simple, but it was just the idea of going from a doer to a developer, and how that changes the way that you think about everything. You know, it's now about your team, and you mentioned this too. It's about asking them, you know, what they need and how they are, and being very direct and intentional with ensuring that they shine, that they have those moments, that they are able to continue to grow and be their best selves, because all that does with you as a leader is make you a better leader and make your team better. It makes everybody better. So that was just the thing that kind of popped into my head. It wasn't necessarily one particular time, but it was just kind of I don't know if it was a leadership book or something that I listened to, but there was a point in which a realization was, it's now not about me. It's now about the people on my team.
Yeah, it's a powerful shift for a leader. Thanks, Bev.
Yeah.
So I believe Kendra's back. Kendra, would you like to test your mic? And if you are still having problems, I'm happy to read your question on your behalf.
I think I should have it now. I think I got my life back.
Yeah. Crystal
Did
clear.
5 weeks and didn't have any issues in the last week. It always happens.
Yeah.
But my name is Kendra Haslett, and I work for Hill International, and it's a construction firm, and I'm a cost control manager. So my question is, what strategies would you suggest to help women that are in a male dominant environment and we're still trying to remain authentic to who we are?
Yeah, it's a great question. Thanks, Kendra. We're going to ask Claudia to lead us off.
That is a good question. Let me give you context on my background so you can have some context to the fact that I have a little bit of qualification to answer this question. At AT&T, where I spent 21 years of my career, I was in network operations, field operations, data center operations, technical operations. And if you get that part, just know that I was in a highly male-dominated environment for most of that time. But I stayed in that part of the business because it was my jam. I like metrics, scorecards, and I like people. And if I can measure it and I can write a process on it and I can operationalize it, I'm jamming all day long. And that was the part of the business that allowed me to do that. I will admit that starting off in that space, I was 21 years old when I started off in that space. And I started off with a crew of 18 field technicians. And the truth is that the youngest person on that crew had 17 years in the business. I was 21 and they were reporting to me. That was my experience through all of my time at AT&T. What I came to learn was that I had to see my difference as a superpower. And it reminds me a little bit of what Kaaren talked about, that reassessment. So imagine I'm there early on, and every time I changed jobs, I went through this in the first, I'd say easily the first 10 years, where I had this big hesitation on if I'm qualified to lean in. And then I always had that go back to my desk and like, oh, I should have said that. Oh, I should have said that. Or someone else brings something up and it's either a terrible idea and everyone jumped into it and I knew it was going to fail, or it was the one that I should have said and I thought about 15 minutes ago. I just didn't have the courage. There was an activity that I jumped in on, and it was the Myers-Briggs test. We had a young lady in our business that was specialized in giving that test and then doing the assessment. And it was so cool in that environment where I was in a roundtable with peers and we were talking about pros and cons, strengths and weaknesses. And as my peers, teammates around started speaking up about the value that they saw that I added to the team, I began to sit up a little straighter and put my arms back a little bit more because I was proud of myself just with that articulation. Just that piece right there taught me that I had it, but I didn't know I had it, and I wasn't comfortable in my space having it. So my strategy, and I tell this to every person that's starting off now, know who you are and do the best you can to figure out what your strengths are. Do the Clifton Strength Finders, do Myers-Briggs, do a 360, ask your peers, because the idea of being uncomfortable in that space and not speaking up is just a result of something, you thinking that you're missing something. And the truth is, you're not supposed to be great at everything anyway. You're there as part of this group. You are the bell pepper and the supreme pizza. If it's just, I like pepperoni pizza, but supreme pizza I think is a little cooler because it has a variety. Be that variety and be comfortable with that variety. Also know that if you don't speak up, then there is an element that is missing in that jam. Like, they need your voice, they need your experience. Even with us all being females on this call, we can go through life with the exact same experiences, but we will not have the same perspective. And it is important to be able to speak up and have that confidence. So the thing that I say is figure out who you are, what your strengths are, then lean into those and just get comfortable practicing leaning into those, and your confidence will build up and people will start coming to you for those things. I mean, I had people that were coming to me for those things that I was uniquely positioned to offer to the business. And once I figured that out, I became an asset.
Fantastic. Thank you, Claudia. Bev or Kaaren, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I would just love to echo what you just said. I'm a huge Myers-Briggs fan and certified in it. Love it so much. And I have to say, when you were speaking, it just spoke to me. I had an experience with a leader where I am an ENFJ, if you speak Myers-Briggs, and I am a big feeler. And he really misinterpreted that feeling part of me as weakness. And I remember coming home to my husband and talking to him and feeling a little defeated. And it took my husband saying to me, no, ma'am, like, you are a feeler. And that's exactly what he needs on his team. And just having that, being able to sit back and think about that, I'm like, you're right. You are right. And you know what? It took about 6 months. It really, really did for him to see the value in that. But once he did, I will remember what he told me every day for the rest of my life. He said, wow, your personality is really good for your job. And I looked at him and I said, I know. And I think what you say, right? And I think what you said, Claudia, is so true. Be true to yourself. Let yourself feel that vulnerability, and be the best you, because you're the only one out there. Yep.
I would like to layer on top of that, because I think that's amazing. I would like to layer on top of that to keep an eye out for how you help the others around you be successful at what they do. When you are able to identify what you're doing and how that contributes, and you know that you can help them be successful in what they're trying to accomplish, and you can present that to them, they're going to listen to your voice, no matter who you are, because it's going to help them be successful. But it is a way for you to, and not in a subservient way, but to bring yourself there and say, I have this and I know what I contribute, and this is going to be what you need.
Thank you, Kaaren. And I have a hard time keeping up with the chat, but I have to read. It is a sad dog who won't wag his own tail. Thank you, LaShonda. All right, so let's go to Sonia Barnes. Has a question for the group that I'm sure you all have experience with around work-life balance. Sonia, can you come off mute, please?
Yes, I can. Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Sure can.
A little bit. Okay, yes, I'm traveling, so hopefully everything will hold up. Yes, I do have a question. In our fields as leaders or any of our jobs, sometimes it's very hard to balance work and life. And so I heard one of the participants say that they had went to law school with children, little bitty children. Yeah, that's a lot. So I just wonder about the work-life balance. How have you been able to accomplish that in your careers? And what advice would you have for us?
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Sonia. And we'll ask Bev to lead us off.
Sure. The first thing that comes to my mind, Sonia, is this. The idea of 50-50 balance, we just have to let that go, because it is not the way. And and we all know that's not the way life ever is. But what it is about, it's about being intentional. And when you have those intentional boundaries, making sure that you stay true to yourself. So I had a mentor a while back that she had this whole analogy that she would say to people that she was mentoring, and it just has stuck with me after all these years. But she said, imagine a juggler. They have their balls in their hand and they're juggling. And she said, if you're there and you're juggling and you've got rubber balls, when one drops, it's going to bounce and it's going to be okay. And you're going to pick it up. You're going to keep juggling some more. But if you are juggling glass balls, then when one drops, it's going to break and it's going to disturb a lot of things. And she said, keep that in your head as you're going through life, because what you have to do is you have to decide what's a rubber ball and what's a glass ball, what's going to break and what's going to bounce. And in my experience, I have 3 kids from age 12 to 22. And I know we have a bunch of DISD people. I just want to say I have 3 kids, one in middle school at Longfellow, right? I have one in high school at Booker T and one that graduated from WT White. So I have all the kids, right? I love it. We love Dallas ISD. But I've missed things, I've missed birthdays sometimes. And what I do, I hate to miss a birthday, but what I do is if I know that's going to happen, I make sure that birthday party that weekend is on point, right? So I do a little bit extra because I want to make sure that my kids know how important they are to our family, to myself. And there's other things I won't miss. I, have a son who is a saxophone player at Booker T. I'm not going to miss any of his performances because it is a gift that he's at that school and has such a beautiful talent. I have a daughter who is an incredible athlete in middle school, and I'm going to make sure that I am there for her championship games. I have a daughter who was a co-captain of her cheerleading team. I made sure that maybe we didn't get to go to every game, but we were certainly there at the ones that mattered to her. And it's drawing those boundaries are just absolutely critical. I think equally as important is to make sure that your team also has boundaries and believes in, is intentional about their work-life balance. So it looks like modeling the behavior as a leader. It looks like encouraging your team to honor their boundaries in their personal time. It looks like being transparent with them. I know a couple weeks ago, I took a time off trip with my best friend, and we stayed in a cabin in the woods and just relaxed, and it was amazing. I rarely get that. I made sure to tell them, you know what, I'm going to be in the woods. I don't know if my Wi-Fi is going to work, so I'm not going to be reachable. And it's rare that, you have a time off that's the truth, but that's the truth. And just being transparent with them gives them the freedom to be transparent with me too. And I think that's all about being intentional. I think it's really a beautiful thing. And last but not least, I would just say that one thing that I've noticed so often throughout my career is often we're putting out fires, right? So one of the things I like to do, especially when I'm a newer leader, is look for those fires. Look for the places where they are and where they keep popping up. And I always think, okay, that's where I'm starting. We're going to reduce these fire drills, whether it's planning, whether it's, getting the right resources or tools, whatever it is, we need to reduce these. We need to be more efficient. And honestly, it's amazing how even just that one thing, it provides a lot of work-life balance because you're not there spending time in an inefficient manner. And so that's something that's been really successful for me. And the last thing I'll say is just, I know that when I'm whole as a worker, as a mama, as a wife, as a Beverly, and all those things that we are, I know that I'm a better leader. I'm better at home, I'm better at work, and I'm just my best self. So I really encourage everyone just to be very intentional about ensuring you have your boundaries and that you protect those.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I call it work-life integration because there's no such thing as, and I really, one of my favorite things that you said, Bev, is the transparency with your team.
Yep.
I am very transparent with my team about what's going on. My leader is in Switzerland, so I start at 6:30 a.m. But my team also knows that if you try to catch me at 4:15, it's just by the phone and I'm on my way to the gym. Like, I am very transparent about what we do. But I also talk to them about the balance that they create. And we're just in an environment where if you have a doctor's appointment, go forth and be mighty. If you need to get online later on at night, do you. If you need to start early, I'm all here for it. My team knows, and I try to tell them, you know your responsibility. You know I don't want to do your job. You know I have to do my job. I need you to do your job, lean in, get it done. If you need me, let me know that I need to be tagged in. But I'm not pressing you on an 8 to 5 because I also know that there's some days that I'm gonna get a lot more out of you. And then some days it's like no one has their best day every day. But I love the transparency because you have to give your teams permission to be human, and you get so much more from them when you have expressed that.
Claudia, I think that's amazing. I want to come work for you. I think that's awesome. And actually, that is one of the things that I wanted to say is that having the right boss is also very helpful. Understanding what your boss expects from you, what your supervisor expects, and asking them, just like asking your direct reports what they would like to see from you, asking your boss, what are your expectations, and making sure that they're clear to you. And then setting and understanding your own boundaries. Beverly, I also think planning is critical. Planning is power, right? Identifying those areas. We have an end of year crush every year. We know it's coming. We begin planning for it in October, and December is a little hairy, but it would be worse if we didn't have that. And it would also be worse if my supervisor wasn't on board with us setting boundaries in that time period and understanding that, just because there's a lot doesn't mean that we can work 24 hours a day. So, whatever it takes, whether it's finding outside resources or, whatever it takes, we'll get it done. But all of that takes planning, and it takes thinking ahead. Obviously, there are fires that are going to pop up. Obviously, there are crises, but you minimize that by laying a really good foundation and knowing that you've got the best environment for that flexibility that you can build, right? So I think that's critical. I will say that in the number of sort of job iterations and the number of places that I had worked in one place, private practice, where there was no work-life balance, and it was terrible. Not that it's not terrible for everybody. It was terrible for me, and I had to leave. I could not stay there. And I think that is also knowing when you have your own, when it's not working for you, and making the change that you need to work for you, because it's out there and you can find it, and you can find the right placement, and you can find the right, support from your environment, from your corporate environment, if that's what you are in. It's about understanding what your priorities are, to the glass balls and rubber balls, understanding what your priorities are and being true to those.
Okay, thank you, everyone. It's a topic that we're always thinking about and enhancing and learning to do better, to ensure that we're able to give ourselves and receive all areas of our lives. I'm going to try to squeeze in one last question before we bring it home. And so that question is from Ana Fernandez, and it has to do with leading authentically as well, really about vulnerability and how it plays with confidence. So let's see. Do we have Ana?
Hello. Yes, I'm here. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for all the information that you have been sharing with us. This is amazing. So the question, I'm work with kids. I work with little ones from 3 years old all the way to sixth grade, and I think the hardest part sometimes is working with adults. So I do have a question for you. So one of the I would like to see how you model vulnerability without undermining the confidence in your leadership.
Thanks so much, Ana. And this one I'm going to just open up to anyone who's ready to start.
I'll jump in a little. I think it depends on what you mean by vulnerability. I think I think that being willing to own your mistakes and be honest and straightforward about having misinterpreted or even provided advice that turned out to be not on point, or something like that, or failing to deliver on time on a rare occasion, right? It makes you human. I think that if you have built the right rapport with the people around you, it strengthens your position because you are human. And I think that it also you have to come at it with the point of view that of what you've done to correct it, or what you've done to bring what you've learned from the experience, I think is probably how I would put it. And I think that's that kind of vulnerability I have found to be, not detrimental. In fact, sometimes it can be something of strength.
I will say that not everyone earned the privilege to be exposed to your vulnerability. And I just want everyone to be careful about that. My first group that I believe I owe my vulnerability to is my direct report team. I mean, I just want us to be transparent, and I want we did it today in our team meeting, but we do this exercise up below the line, above the line, and there's a book on it. You can do the Cliff Notes version. You as a leader, you can feel the pressure. Like, you can feel when everyone's tired. You can feel when things are going on. And I showed up to the call and was like, you all, I am at my wit's end. I am for real at my wit's end. And I'm just going to go through some things that are messy, and I think we can do better. And it wasn't just specifically for us. It was just like those that we interact with. And so we went through that. And then the team went through, and I said, what else was going on? So it was this purging, this exhaling. And then after we did that for about 4 minutes, it's like, all right, above the line, what is positive that we can focus on? That interaction that I have with my team allows them to tell me, hey, I'm just off today, or this is what's going on. But more importantly, because I'm such a direct person, when I started showing that and offering that, it helped me in my relationship with them, where I can give very direct feedback and I don't leave them in a fetal position. They're more like, okay, I get it. I should have done better. They're leaning in. They're like, okay, let's get this together. And that is extremely important. Now, I'm on calls with executives on a regular basis. You get my professionalism, you don't get my vulnerability. Because I don't need anyone taking that and classifying it as girl issues. Yes, they're girl issues, but that's none of your business, and you don't get to use it as a weapon towards me. So be careful with that. It is good to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is a gift. It is offered to people that you know should be receiving it, and you are hoping to get something in exchange from them. But not everybody deserves that.
I'm going to just pause us there. So I'm sorry, Bev, we're not going to have a chance to get to your thoughts on this. But thank you all so much for these wonderful insights and life experiences. So we'd like to wrap up with just a short piece of advice from each of you to the students. So Bev, maybe we will start with you, since we didn't get to you in the last one.
Awesome. I will take that. No worries at all. I really am just going to double down on what I said earlier. Be intentional with what it is that you want in life, because actually the same mentor that gave me the juggling analogy, she also said something that I thought was really powerful and have never forgotten. And that is, keep your eye on what it is that you want, because if you keep your eye on the challenges that you meet that are keeping you from what you want, you will hit those challenges. But if you keep your eyes on the path forward, you will meet the path forward. And I think that is all about being intentional about how you look at life and look at yourself. And so I just say, be intentional and keep looking at that path forward, because you get to define it for you. No one else does. I'm going to jazz hands forever now. I'm just saying that too.
Whoever's ready, Kaaren or Claudia.
Sure, I'll go. I will also double down, and that's trust yourself. Trust that you know what you know, and that, I mean, and it's you do. Believe me, you do. You know what you know. And I think too, be aware that even when you're feeling a little underconfident, you can find your confidence, and you will trust that you can bounce back. from something. Trust that you can make a mistake and it's okay, right? These are important things to know. You have resilience, you have strength, and you know yourself. I recently was on a panel with someone who is a CEO of a streaming video company, and she said that she, even at her position, she is before she goes on stage to do a big presentation or anything like that, she stands in front of the mirror in the bathroom and looks at herself and says, "You are a queen," and then she walks out onto the stage. So give yourself that, right? Give yourself the room to affirm yourself and to believe in yourself and trust.
That's good. And oh man, those are so good. The advice that I would give, Myers-Briggs, Strength Finders, whichever it is, do your best to know who you are and your strengths. The other piece that I would give, very similar to what Bev and Kaaren said, I throw the joke out, hype your bestie up, just because it's a song and it's fun things going on the internet with that song. But that what I mean by that really is have your posse, your network of people that believe in you. And if you have a down moment, call them and they will tell you that you are that person. They will tell you you are pressure and you can deliver. I have friends that will text me and say I'm having a moment, and I immediately start celebrating them, asking, what, do they not know how great you are? What, I mean, do we need to advertise that you got this? I mean, I just go through that. And if you really think about it, you can do that for your friends so well. Like if your friends called you and said, "Oh, I'm scared of this," or whatever, you'd be like, "Girl, please, you know you have this." And that's what you need. You need that posse. You need that great group that's going to always keep you up. So if you're not, I love what Kaaren said, if you're not around your friends, I usually call my friends before I'm about to do something, then go into the mirror and hype yourself up. If it's hype music, if it's words of affirmation, these things are very powerful, and men wake up with it. And sometimes it's not even warranted. Thank you.
Thank you all. And that's a great transition to my closing remarks, which will be brief, but I really encourage you to stay in touch with this community. Maybe some of your future posse is right here in this group. That's one of the gifts of this experience, is not just the practical knowledge you gain from the material, which I hope you find valuable, but the potential for broadening your network and forming lifelong professional friendships. I have been asked once or twice, gosh, there's just so much good stuff in here. Right now I'm just feeling a little overwhelmed. What should I do? My advice is just, always good to take small steps. And you can do that a couple of ways. Maybe you go through each module and identify one action that you'd like to commit to practice in your workplace. Or maybe you look through the different modules and identify the one that really speaks to you the most, and really just give yourself a little extra attention there. I wish you all the best for your future success, and thank you so much for joining tonight. Thank you again to our panelists and to Robin for joining as well. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jazz hands from everyone for Claudia.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.